Today, you will be learning how you can make your own Twitter verification system just like Pet Simulator X in Roblox. Let me showcase it to you first. You can verify for 10,000 coins, and you need to follow NewbieYT on Twitter to receive the 10,000 coins. I am Hawke now, Hawke RBX, and I don't follow Newbie. We're going to click on verify, and the game will say you don't follow us, you will not receive your 10,000 coins. So, what do we do now? We're going to follow Newbie on Twitter. But we know that AlvinBlocks actually follows me on Twitter, so we're going to use AlvinBlocks as the example. I'm AlvinBlocks. I'm going to verify myself. Let's see what happens. Verify. Verifying against Twitter. And as we can see, we will be granted the 10,000 coins because we follow Newbie. Thank you for following us. You're great. And as you can see, 10,000 coins. And I am verified, and this actually saves. So if you want to know how you can make this Twitter verification system just like in Pet Simulator X inside of your own Roblox game, then make sure you watch this video all the way to the end to find out exactly how to make this. So newbie, how do we set this system up? It is pretty simple, but first publish your Roblox game. So go to File, go to Publish to Roblox, and then simply give it a cool name, Bluebird, why not? Then we are going to create the game. And then we will go to user settings, game settings, my bad. Game settings, we're going to go to security, we're going to enable HTTP and studio access. If you already have those enabled, cool. And just click on save. Now we have to get the model from the link in the description down below. So go to the description down below, get the model link, and then head back to Roblox Studio. We're going to go to view, we're going to go to toolbox, and then we are going to go to the 4 blocks over here, which is my inventory. And we are going to click on TVS Newbie Hawke, the Twitter verification system is what it stands for. 5 scripts, just click on OK. And you got this beautiful board now. So how is this going to work, Newbie? Now we need to drag in the items where they belong. So as you can see, replicated storage goes into replicated storage. Server script service goes into server script service. Start GUI goes into start GUI. And workspace goes into workspace. Now, delete the folders because we do not need them. Because we do not need them anymore. Now, before we start the coding process, we need to get an API link. And if you don't know what an API is, that is something which Hawke will be explaining right now. So let's go to you, Hawke.
Thanks for that, Newbie. Hi guys, I'm Hawke. I'm one of the trusted helpers on Newbie's Discord server. As Newbie mentioned, we're going to be building a Twitter verification system. This system will allow us to award the players in our game that are following us on Twitter. It could be with coins, with tools, with boosts, whatever you choose. I had a quick look at the Twitter API, and it's now costing $100 a month just to even view your tweets, let alone find your followers. So I had a little search online and came across a third-party API, which is hosted by RapidApi.com. This API is absolutely free, so we're going to go sign up for that, grab the API details that we need for the game, and I'll just explain what's happening in there. So initially we have to go to RapidApi.com. Once we're in there, as I said, it's absolutely free to sign up. I signed up using my Gmail account. Once you've signed up, come back to this page and we'll find the Twitter API. So this Twitter API has multiple endpoints. You can view your tweets, you can view your media, you can have a look at your likes, your timeline, you can follow, retweet, you can send DMs if you wish to. The one we're interested in is a user following. This will allow us to retrieve who the player is actually following, and we can check for our name and reward them if they are actually following us. So we need to subscribe to Test for this. This API has multiple different tiers. We're obviously interested in the free one, which is the basic. This allows 20,000 searches a month, which roughly works out about 666 a day. Should fit most people's requirements for the game. If you do exceed that, there are obviously other options available here, or you can message the creator of this, who I do believe creates custom packages for people. So his name's up there. So let's subscribe to the basic. Once we subscribe, we'll go back to our endpoints. As I mentioned, we're going to be using the user following. So if we select that, in here we've got our API key, we've got a session, and also the host. We need this information to be stored later on in our for our game. So let's just grab that, and I'm just going to paste that in a notepad just now. And we'll retrieve that later when we're coding. As an example, let's do a quick search. So I don't really want to search for Elon Musk, so I'm going to search for myself. So when I search for myself, it's Test Endpoint. We're now in the results tab, so I'm not really following many people. I just created this account just for this application. So if I go to the bottom, I believe the latest person I tested it on was ROBLOX. So let's have a quick look. So if I come into this details, all the code will pass this JSON file for you. So don't worry about how big it is or how deep it goes. All the code does this for you. So if we go to legacy, if I go to screen name, so there you go, you can see there I've actually followed ROBLOX DevRel, which is the developer relations. So using that information, we've now signed up, we now have an API. Let's get to the code.
So now before we actually start coding all of the scripts, we have to do something first. So you should have copied your twttr-session and RapidApi key. You should have copied those what Hawke copied. So make sure you did that. If you didn't do that, if you didn't copy it, go back to the video and make sure you copy it in a notepad. Now we need to set some variables already. And we do that, or else in the coding process it's going to go a little bit weird and too fast and all that stuff. We do not want that. We're going to go to the Twitter server script. And we are going to type local twttr, so Twitter session, is equals to the first one, this one, the Twitter session. So that is from H all the way to the equals, like that. Copy that, paste it in. Now, local API key, and the API key is the second one. For in my case, it's abad, whatever. So get that. It's the X rapid API key. So copy that, and then paste it in. Then local host. The host is equals to https://twitter, so twttr-api.p.rapidapi.com. It's a weird link, but this is what handles all of the requests. Local Twitter username is equals to, and then your Twitter username without the @ sign. So your username without the @. In my case, it's newbieyt12, because I was 12 when I made the account in 2018. Oh well. And then the last one is local API link is equals to host, ... and then in quotation marks, /user dash, or minus, following, and then question mark username equals. These are the 5 variables you have to prepare in advance. And you did that now, so that is good. And now we can actually start the actual coding process. Make sure you keep up. Join my Discord server if you need any help. And good luck.
Now that we've finished all the coding, let's have a look at the recap. So we'll bring this up. So in our client script, we are basically getting the player, which is a local player, because this is a local script within the starter GUI. We're also setting up our variables for all our layout structure of our window here. So we're setting up the verify box, the status box, the verify button, the input, and the message that will be displayed. From there, we then got a function which will show the message. This function takes two parameters. One is, was the message successful, and what was the message. So this will do all your visibles and animations and etc. for the message. We've also got button activated. So this is when the user clicks on the verify button. So as soon as they click on it, what it'll do, it will take the username which they've entered. It will then send a request to the server, passing that username in, and it will then respond with whether it was successful or not, and if there was a message or an error message. The last line here is if a user hits the verify button without actually entering a name, it will just ask them to enter a name. Basic leader stats script. So in this leader stats, we just, as usual, we're building a data store. We've set up a little database to connect to that data store. In this case, it's Twitter demo. We've got some other functions in here. So load data will basically retrieve the data from the server that is stored against that user. We then have save data, again, exact same as load data, but for this time it's going to be setting the data on the data store. We then have players added function. So this is initially going to set up our leader stats. In this case, we are passing in coins because we want to reward our players. And there's also a boolean value, a true false value, for is the player verified. This is used on the main screen whether to reward the player or show that they're already verified and they can't verify again. So once we've set those up, we then load our data in when the player is added. If the player has data, it will then use that value, or it will set it to the default of 0 or false for verified. When the player is leaving the game, we basically get all our data, so coins and is verified, we store them in our data table, we then send that to the save data function, and that allows us to keep all our data stored, loaded and saved. The main server for this Twitter verification. So in here we obviously have to reference all our services. In this case it's HTTP service because we're using a third-party API which is outside of the ROBLOX website. We also need to identify our players and our workspace. I've then set up some other variables just to pinpoint to our actual sign itself, which is where the buttons and whatnot are shown. So if I just disable this, so it's basically this sign here. So we've just pinpointed where the verify button etc. is. Once we've done all that, we then have our Twitter sessions. So previously I said I stored my session in a notepad. So I'm just going to grab that information again. So under Twitter sessions, we have to grab the whole Twitter session code. So if we grab that and we paste it into our Twitter session, and we also need the API key from this as well. So let's just grab the API key and we'll also paste that in. We've also got the host which is automatically set up to RapidApi. Under local Twitter username, this is where you put your username. This is the account that we are checking for. So if I was searching for myself, I would be putting in Hawke RBX. Obviously without the @ sign because the API doesn't resolve the @ sign when you're searching. API link, this is the link that the API will use. In this case, as mentioned previously, we're going to be using the user following. So what this will do, it will take the hostname of TwttRApi, twtterapi.p.rapidapi.com, and add user following username and whatever the user types in. We've then got a user get followers function, which has a parameter of handle. This is the name that the user has passed in. So what this script will do, it will then make a request to the API, passing in the link and the handle. It uses a get method and it passes in our session key, API key, and uses the host as we said above. If this is not successful, it'll send a message to the user saying failed to make a request. That's still pretty self-explanatory. If it is successful, what we have to do is we have to decode the JSON file. JSON is basically like an array or a table with lots and lots of nested information in it. So what this allows us to do is break it into nice areas so we can actually break it down and parse the bit easier. If there's any errors found within our data, mainly this will happen when somebody types in a username that doesn't exist on Twitter. So we've accounted for that. So if we received any errors, we return a false, as in it wasn't successful, and we display this message to the user. Now on to parsing the actual JSON file that we received. So that, as I said on the previous section, this JSON file is absolutely massive. So what I've done is I've actually broken it down into each individual areas and put the for loops etc in, so we can grab each individual name of the person that's following. So we use a for loop, as I said, against the data. Within that data we go down to the instructions nest. So it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nests that we actually go down from there. We then check to make sure we've got timeline add entries. What this is in the area is where our users are stored. So if we don't find that, then there's an error, which is handled at the bottom. So once we have that, we now have the user data. So we then go through the user data, we then do another loop, we check for timeline items. So this is the individual users. These individual users are then stored under a user type of user. From there, we then target the screen name. This is the name of the user's account. So as soon as we found that, I've got a print statement here just so I can see it in the test. So we just check to make sure that the username that we found matches our account. If it does match, we then send, yep, this was successful. We also send if there's any more pages and what the latest cursor is. After all that, we also got another check here, because a user might have followed you previously. It might not just be instantly, so they might have followed you a couple months ago, so they're going to be on page 3 of the results. So what this bit of the code does is checks whether there's another page of users. If there is another page of users, it stores the value under the cursor, and it also sets the more pages flag to true or false. As I said previously, if there was no user found, my apologies, if there was no entries found within there, it sends a was not successful and an error message. Right, when a player joins the game, we've got to run this function. This function will check the is verified flag under our player, and every time this changes, it will then change our board here. So if they are verified, this button won't appear, it'll just show the user is verified, and if they're not verified, they'll get the option to select that button. Right, so we then add the function for when the user clicks that button. So as soon as they click it, we then show the verification screen, which I'll show here. This name here is actually updated by the script itself, so it's wherever you put under Twitter username will be shown on that screen. That's where this is set in here, and we also make the frame then visible to the user. Right, on the client script we sent our on server invoke. We sent an on server request to the server, so this is us now receiving this. So within here we're receiving the player's name and the handle that was entered into the box. We set up some variables here to identify if the player was found, was there any messages, or are there any more pages, and what is the value for those pages. So in here we then call the get followers function with that user's handle. If the username wasn't found and there was an error message, i.e. this variable was a string, we then send a false and what the error message was back to the client. If the user wasn't found and there are more pages and we have an ID of the page, We then wait 1 second because the API has a limit on it. So once we've waited that 1 second, we then rerun the get followers function again, this time passing in the handle as well as the new page via the cursor. If the player is found, what we then do is we then update our isVerified boolean value, which is under the player, to true. We then reward the player, in this case I'm giving them 10,000 coins, and we then send a successful message and saying thanks for following us. If the player was never found out of all the pages, we then send this is a false response and sorry, you don't appear to be following us. The user has either typed the name incorrectly or they're not actually following us. And then at the bottom we've obviously run the player added connection, which runs this function, and then we also do players in pairs. So this is it for any players that are in the game, it automatically adds that function back onto them. And I will be passing this back to Newbie. Thanks.
Thank you, Hawke, for the great explanation. Now we are going to test this system out. And as you can see, I am already playing. So now let's pretend that I am Hawke and I do not follow Newbie on Twitter. But I still want those juicy 10,000 coins. Let's do it. Verify, and we are going to type a Hawke RBX because I am Hawke. And we're going to verify, but I don't follow Newbie. Oh no, what's going to happen? Oh! And we don't appear to be following Newbie, and we cannot, as you can see, we cannot verify ourselves, and we have to retry again. So let me ask Hawke right now to follow me on Twitter so we can see if it actually works.
One eternity later.
And Hawke followed me, so we, because I'm Hawke now, and I followed Newbie just a minute ago. Hawke RBX, we're gonna try this out, and 3, 2, 1, verify. And I follow Newbie now, so it's gonna, as you can see, thank you for following us, you're great, and we just got 10,000 coins. We are verified, and we got our money, we got the system that we need. And of course, if you cannot verify yourself, as you can see over here, Hawke RBX, and Hawke doesn't following me anymore, how do you get out of this GUI? There's no exit button. You just simply click away. You just click, and then it is gone. You can click on verify again, and then let me try someone else who is actually following me on Twitter. And as you can see, they are following us, and then the GUI will go automatically away. And because this system is so optimized, if you would do a random name, and you would press verify, the game will just say it doesn't exist. As you can see, user not found on Twitter. This is because the game is pretty optimized for this code, and then when you try to do a weird name, it will just say, nope, no thanks. So that's a really cool feature which is also in the code. And if we would test this in a 2-player world, we will see that this actually also works. So there are 2 to 3 things that can happen. It either both lets us verify, which means we are within the rate limit range, which is pretty rare. Or one of them could error out, and it will say that the Twitter servers are busy, which is a normal error. Or it will say that you are not following them, which is a page problem, which is completely normal. It is just because 2 people are trying to verify at the same time, and the Twitter will just not process it. So if we verify both, verify, as you can see, Twitter servers are busy, please try again later. We're just going to keep spamming it, and maybe this one will go not following. Oh, that one is, okay. As you can see, thanks for following us, you're great. And this was because the game kept looking, but we were already looking and we reached rate limits, which is a completely normal thing. And if we would try again now, it will just say thank you for following, and then we are all happy. As you can see, we'll keep thinking, and thank you for verifying. As you can see, thanks for following us, you're great. So this is how you make a Twitter verification system inside of Roblox Studio. So if you did effect enjoy this tutorial, make sure you leave this video with a like if you like it. And if you did not like this video, please give it a dislike, because honest feedback really helps me out a lot. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, become a channel member, turn on notifications, comment something nice, I heart every comment. And all I can say is that my name is Newbie, and I say, peace out.